Welcome to the Belfield Show. Hello, my name is Larry Belfield, and I'm a realtor in your area. I want to thank you for tuning into my channel, and what we've been discussing is everything in the known universe but real estate. So what I'm going to try to do tonight is continue in doing that. Our previous lesson, or our previous show, was about the devil and how pretty much I'm the only devil here. But this episode, I actually wanted to start it off with something very personal to me. This is a scene, as you see here. This is a crime scene. Every day I was dropped off here after school. And every day I would get off the bus and walk across the street right to my house. But one day in 1993, as I was getting off the bus, some teenagers who were, lack of a better word, evil, were pretty much doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. And they decided to rob a man of his car, kill him in front of his son, in front of actually almost 1,000 kids being let out from school, and steal his car. During the time it happened, my attention was not all there. I was only in 5th grade, and everybody heard the loud bang. I actually saw the man in his last moments, but it really didn't register what was happening. The noise took effect, and then I saw his face, the look on his face of shock. But I thought it was, I dismissed it immediately. And I grabbed my stuff and I began to walk off the bus. And seconds later, they pull the man out of his car, and they peel off. And then, I hurry up and get my stuff and get off the bus because I'm focused on getting off the bus. What I really noticed that day is that the aisle was empty. I'm like, oh man, the aisle's empty, ain't nobody there yet. So I rushed off and got off the bus. And as I was walking off the bus, I was the only one off the bus walking home. I see this car driving off. It looked weird, but I didn't really register what was happening at the moment because I really didn't hear the bang and the gunshot and the commotion. So the next day, they take us into class, or they take us out of class into a special room, and they have a meeting with us about the events that took place. And then I saw on the news what had happened, but really, it didn't dawn on me 2 years later what's really going on here in our city, what's really going on here in our town. I really didn't believe what I saw, being my age and what was going on. It really just didn't dawn on me that this man's life is being taken, criminal activity is being happening, and devastation is going on right in front of my face. Now, since we're on Google Maps, we can go ahead and zoom on down the street. And this is one of the last crimes I witnessed here. This was a murder that took place years later. I was 18 or 19, and I was at a friend's house here on the corner. And what happened is I came outside, I was on my cell phone, and I saw a guy pull up. And then I saw another guy. And then I saw another guy. And then before I knew it, I saw about 20 or 30 men outside of this guy's house. I thought they were throwing a party. I said, man, there'll be a party going down or something. And slowly and methodically, these people began to test and probe every door and window in this man's house. They began to test the front door, the back door, and then when things started to look weird, when they started testing the windows. And actually, 2 people got in through the windows, and they opened up the front and back door. And less than 60 seconds later, you hear someone scream. A man screamed, a blood-curdling scream. And as they're walking out, I'm in total shock. I'm thinking that, an accident has taken place, or something's going on, something's crazy, right? And then before I know it, everybody's walking out of the house. Less than 2 minutes, almost every single person that showed up, about 30 people, was gone. And so as they're walking out, I'm kind of an idiot because they're right here in front of me. They're actually walking past me. They're walking around me. And I get on the phone immediately. Oh, my God. Somebody got injured. Somebody hurt right now inside the house. And they said, what's happening? I said, well, some people walked in the house, and then now somebody's screaming. I think somebody got hurt. And then they're like, well, who's there? What's going on? I said, somebody broke in, and they're right now, they're there. She's like, well, how many people's there? And even when they're right in front of me, I go, there's 10, 20, 30 of them right here. And almost immediately you hear, sirens go off and everything. And even as I'm saying this, they're looking at me in the eye. And I'm like on the phone. They know I'm on the phone with the police. And they know that, oh, yeah, there's 30 people here. There's a lot of people here. Right and I told them how many there were there, they were like, yeah, okay. Like they were assured that their number would give them safety. There was a time in the 90s where gangster activity had gone so rampant that they administered a 3 strikes law, which put a limit to how many crimes that you can do before you get a life sentence. It's really put a timer on most criminal activity. You can't just stay a criminal. They didn't want people to stay criminals. And this is what people were doing. They were getting indoctrinated as kids and becoming lifetime criminals. And even on the phone, calling the police in front of them, they felt no fear. They felt complete safety because they had so many people with them. And they said, as long as there's so many of us, they can't really do anything. They made it completely illegal to even walk together in groups as a gang. If you're walking together, it's 4 or 5 of you, you got the same color on, we're going to pull you over and stop you. We're just going to stop you. That's how bad it got. It got so wrought with evil and frustration in the community to where we were stopping citizens that didn't even do anything. This is what we say is slavery. You see, men arguing, men fighting. There's nothing that we can do about that, right? There's nothing we can do to stop it. There's nothing. That's just people behaving. That's just how it goes down, right? You're wrong. That's not how it goes down. That's not how things are run. When a good man is in his home with his family and he's infiltrated just like that horrifically, the whole society is threatened. Every single one of us is at risk. And we can't just let things be. Martin Luther King said, and I quote, that injustice anywhere is a threat to real justice everywhere. So we can't turn a blind eye to small or little insignificant crimes just because we say, oh, it's just gangster activity, or it's just a man, he's on drugs, we're having our time. It's always, you always have an answer. You always have some sort of excuse when you're in the courtroom. But we got to stop listening to the courtroom guy, and we got to start listening to, the innocent guy in the bed. We want to have freedom and peace, and we want to have equality. But the problem is, we're in a world of evil. Okay? The devil does exist. Okay? You can't tell me that it's not real. Okay? And if the devil is real and the devil exists, then we should be totally run over by evil. Unless there is some force counteracting the evil. Unless there is some force counteracting the devil. Because from what it looks like, there's no stopping rampant violence like this. So, I want to end this saying that we must take a harder look a more firmer look at what we think is slavery, as what we think is masters and slaves, and what we think is evil in the world. Most people think not getting paid would be the evilest thing that can happen. With someone taking your child and then getting rid of you so that they can raise it to be a beast of burden. That's a fate worse than death. And that's what our subject is in this week's lesson. We like to call, or I like to call, the lost. Check. 1, 2. The lost. In researching the history of real estate, I took a trip halfway around the world and back, throughout time, culture, and space. What I found in this search was a tremendous amount of loss. Lost time, lost cultures, lost cities, lost people. There has been so much devastation, corruption, and loss of life due to man settling on land. There has been a great pain and anguish learning that land is so volatile that it can swallow up whole worlds. Realize that the face of our world has changed and is always changing. We are not in this position because the lifespan of a brick is 300 years. It's because our ability or inability to work together to keep the infrastructure in a proper working manner. How does the mail stop and the buses stop and the companies move away? Then drugs come in, then murder goes up, and then. You can't tell me that you don't know a place like this. See, in trying to find out how the great experience of buying a home began, I found the dreadful experience of losing an entire city, an entire civilization. The wonderful act of purchasing property is a defense against the most dreadful acts of all mankind. Owning land is one of the most dangerous business in all of history. Imagine you build a house, a great house, knowing that it won't last forever. In fact, during its most crucial time is when it might need to be rebuilt. See, America is only 300 years old, and slavery has been a part of this land since before it became a country. And Jim Crow laws were just outlawed in the 1970s. Even though real estate was used to commit so many egregious acts of racism, redlining, blockbusting, and just plain discrimination, those were just more evil men committing crime. See, in reality, real estate is like a religion. It's meant to bring equality, not just to purchasing property, but more importantly, how to acquire safe debt and what you could possibly lose due to debt. In the time of Jesus, you can lose everything, all the way up to your life, your wife, and your children, for your debts. Now, in this journey, we've come to America and how it came to be. And I believe I found an amazing truth that will change the way you think about its history. As we approach the roots of real estate, we also find ourselves in the roots of America. At the point at which I think I'm almost done, I can just say that realty is the protection that states provide for their citizens that own land in case of fire, flood, or theft. See, realty is a guard for one's property. However, now I am in the history of America, a place where my ancestors were regarded as property. See, it devastated me to think that I would have to explain slavery. Like, what the heck? Like, I'm just seeing these giant walls, these giant blocks look like grains of sand in my hand. Then I realized that every brick starts from these little grains of sand. So I will start with a grain of sand. See, in reality, I never believed in reality. I never believed in just knowing that we're enslaved. That was never enough for me. See, I wanted to know who, where, when, how, and what I'm going to do to them when I see them. See, most people are satisfied with just knowing, hey, we were slaves. But I was never that naive. If I lived in a country where my family was once a slave and I'm now free, see, we're gonna need to justify some stuff. You didn't just throw freedom on my existence, right? See, I need to know personally what took place. I'm not taking your word for it. See, maybe you're just saying that and I'm still enslaved economically. See, so now we're going to do a search on how America slaved out the world. See, first, America slaved out the world, baby. Let me see what time going. Okay, I've got 3 minutes. I can skip all of that part. First, there are several presidents of America that are of African descent. See, however, they were president before 1776, before America was the United States. We were the United Congress. Several houses that band together that handle the regions of the colonies. And the first act to abolish slavery was made in Maine in 1630. This allowed me to see that slavery is much older than this country. See, everyone knows that, except in this modern time, we all have all we have that connects us to all of history is the fight with slavery. There's been no other nation that has this much slavery in it, right? See, now we've got to find the roots of slavery. See, it's a good thing that I've been researching the world for a year, right? So now when I look up slavery, see, I can see a pattern that we have all been looking for. What connects all of mankind? Is it love? Is it sex? Is it money? Is it greed? Is it hate? Is it sin? Is it God? Actually, it's work. Even in the village life, there is division of labor. In most cases of animals, life is a lot of work. From the caterpillar to the cow. See, most of these animals travel in packs, where they must travel thousands of miles to escape harsh climates. You see, humans have adapted themselves to survive bad weather. However, not without increased work output. Man has learned to serve one another. This has increased our lifestyle and comfort greatly. See, we built towers and monuments to the sky by working together. This is what separates us from the animals. However, things can get animalistic over time. What I found was astonishing. See, we have established as slave labor in the United States has transcended down through history as the only conceivable slave-master relationship. See, remember, we must note that a minimum wage was barely introduced in the last 100 years, around 1920, with Henry Ford. And it wasn't him. He established a minimum for his workers. And years later, the government established a minimum wage for the people. Now, before slavery in America, master and servant was like boss and employee. That's why I refer to the slavery in America as genocide, not slavery. See how these people were taken and what was lost, it wasn't for a job. I mean, you don't go into a village and kill all the men and boys and take the women to farm fields. See, these men have sin on their minds, and the worst kind. See, this is far more terrifying than work with no pay. So you see, a city can go bad in several ways. Commerce goes down. Farming goes down. Crops are bad for several years. The wells dry up. Diseases. The animals are dying. Diseases for animals and humans are going rampant. And there's a bigger, better city near you. See, cities going out happens more often than you think. However, just not as often. When they are going out is when you find the most trouble. First with the population, see, the price is going way up. And with all those people using all the products, the quality is going way down. See, the traffic is high. The population is high. Income, low. Now that things are big and fast, you might need some money to get started in your life. See, before you didn't. So more people begin to borrow with a failing infrastructure. Less and less can pay their debts. So in the end, only those that are locked in stay in a city like that. Then people leave expressly to leave their debt behind. So the people that are locked in, then they escape. See, they are escaping. Now this requires other places to get stricter and stricter with the debt record, to where you can systematically lose all that you own, up to your life, your wife, and your children. You all can become slaves to whom you owe the debt. this is where the story of the children of Israel come into play. Because they implement a system of jubilee that relieves everyone of their debt every several years. In fact, most societies indoctrinate this into their economy system. See, now we have two distinct powers in the world. Man versus himself. So the fate of our world has already been decided by good and bad men. Who do you think won? Some men are good, right? Some men are friendly and kind and helpful, and some men aren't. Some men treat others with respect. Some men love and have heart for his fellow man. Some men are praiseworthy. Some men are commendable. Some men are brave. Some men put their families first. Some men take care of their kids. Some men have hobbies and interests. Some men seek trophies and fame. Some men strengthen themselves day and night and make sure their families is as strong as they are. And some men disregard other men. Some men have the most undesirable traits. Some men are evil. I'm sorry, we can't help that. Right? We can only take care of that when it comes. But throughout all of our years of evolution, see, we still have no way to stop hate. We only have the power to stop hateful people from doing hateful acts. In the midst of hateful acts, sorry. Sometimes the best way to get rid of evil men is to just leave them alone, leave them behind. Now I'm seeing the real reason cities fall. See, it's because no one is around to take care of them. Because everyone is left. Why did they leave, right? The social, economic atmosphere was crashing down. Then the hate drove out the people that weren't having such a good life anyway. So, depending on who's running your society, you can either have an okay life or end up dead or enslaved. You see, some men are ruthless. You can call some men every evil name in the book. In fact, all the evil that man can do has been rounded up in one word: sin. There's so much violence and bloodshed that I'd rather use this word than actually say what they did. For example, executions, tortures, and slaveries, right? Real slavery from debt is not American slavery. But depending on who's in charge at the time, people may be subject to all manner of vile acts. See, it is very unspeakable, the crimes that are committed. And I do not wish to share the details of these acts. However, not giving you some insight, at least enough for you to go on your own and search for yourself, would not give you the proper perspective of what's going on in our world. So I try to stay near tortures that happen in the Bible, well-documented punishments in Roman law, and common stories. Meaning, you should know all about, crucifixions and stonings and beheadings. Okay? Now, I don't really go on beyond this point. I know this doesn't stand up to your Friday night horror movie. However, these stories and events are true. Okay? Evil men throughout time. The evil that men do throughout history is almost always thrown on the victims. It was a tumultuous time when we weren't at war and they did this and they did that, right? And it's so hard to see evil today because evil had to adapt. You see, it's a lot harder for evil to sin, for sin to take place, because the work of our forefathers, they fought kings, powers, gods, little g, to ensure that our world would not be led by evil or sin. To tell you the truth, evil is present in our lives. However, it is greatly weakened. Kings and evil. Now, here is a short list of what I've basically summed up the amount of evil that was going on during these times. Around 5,000 years ago, 3,000 BC, you see, a king can order a person to kill himself, take their women and children, and just, they're my slaves now, they're mine. I have a greater force, I have an army, we have metal, and you don't. See, 4,000 years ago, they would still go and kidnap women in secret and hope nobody finds out, you see. We got better, more armies, more cities became armed. It wasn't just one armed force coming over and sweeping over us. Cities started getting bolder. 3,000 years ago, kill all the boy babies so they don't grow up and kill us for killing their fathers. You see, we've done so much killing and enslaving. Now these men are coming out of nowhere. We had control of it. We just had women. Now men are coming up everywhere. Now they're taking the boy babies out of women's. You got a boy baby? They're coming and checking every year. You got a baby? You got a boy baby? And they're killing it if it's the boy. All the way up until the boy's strong enough to fight back. So probably from 1 to 8 or 9, they're trying to kill him. You understand? That's 3,000 years ago. Now 2,000 years ago. Now we've stopped killing so many people. Now we're just trying to impregnate all these women. 27 virgins. Just impregnate women, impregnate women, impregnate women. That's what we're trying to do. So we're not enslaving, we're not killing anybody. We're just trying to have as many offspring, right? So we can control the world. That's what it's about. Kidnap 200 women and have thousands and thousands of kids a year. Okay? Now, 1,000 years ago, get caught in a secret brothel, then die socially. So 1,000 years before this, they were just impregnating women, impregnating women, impregnating women, impregnating women. Now 1,000 years after that, hey, if you get caught having extramarital affairs, you can be put in jail because the church is in control. You see what's happening here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 1,000 years ago. Now today, a preacher with his shirt off will turn the world upside down. What is going on in this place? Okay? You better have your butt in church on time. And the only thing you leading us in is prayer. And you can secretly have an affair. So we want to say that the world is becoming more evil. The world is becoming more anxious. But the facts, the data, okay, the evidence proves, hey, something is changing here. Kings can't go kill 100 men somewhere and have yourself a raping party like they used to do, like they do in secret, right? So with the technology today, we see that one man has been given the power to destroy way more single-handedly. However, the power that man has over one another has greatly diminished. You can't send troops to kill without an act of Congress. You got to get that bill put through. But you can use the system against itself. In a system where we believe all are created equal, it would not take a great deal of evil effort to convince citizens that some people that you live and work with should not be considered human. In order to do that now, your name and your presence will be attached to that sin. We will know exactly who you are and what you stand for. See, laws, legislation, Congress. This keeps man from saying things like, Don't feed the Muslims. Crucify the Christians. Burn the Jews. And then millions of people start persecuting people based on one man's emotional response. You would be hard pressed to even say anything like that now. This is only because we have endured the fates. Now, I would like to skip over these atrocities. However, our defense against such acts has shaped our world. Borders, armies, democracies, all are kept. They're all here, to keep evil men from saying things like, let's invade them and take what they have for our own. Just as your home is protected from such crime. There is literally thousands of years of development, from foraging roamers to proud homeowners. We have gotten to this point only through the grace of God and His mercy. Through this whole paper, I have researched men, time, places, cities, gods, monsters, inventions, all that makes humans human. In search of the roots of real estate, we have went around the world, the whole world, through time. We have solved the Grail and conflict between nations. But we still need to know is how. All we know is that it is done. There is no reason for the pyramids, Babylon, Moses, Abraham, the cities of Alexander. Look, the Silk Road itself. None of these things are connected. They're separated by hundreds of years. So how does the world become right? Through the cross. When we get down to the grassroots of real estate, we actually have solved all of the problems of the world. This is because the chief conflict that we face as humans is space. Taking over, invading, or fleeing our home is one of the most devastating things that can happen. Having a massive amount of people be displaced is very hard and deadly on the people suffering from it. Real estate was created to handle the land entitlement issue of the people. Who owns the land? How does it stay theirs in case of disaster? See, real estate is a systematic guard against potential loss or destruction of property. Most would think that we just got smart along the way, that we became more caring and sharing because we have kind hearts and stable minds. The truth is far more dreadful. After much deliberation in my mind, the only reason to stop the slaughter is that you won, or everyone is too weak to keep fighting. There's no reason to change the rules or give your enemy anything. If it's the sensible and logical process of man has occurred, we would all be subject to the strongest race. However, we work together in a conglomerate of leadership. Our system of real estate has one purpose and one purpose alone: to ensure that all men under God are treated right according to their land. Now, as we approach the end of this paper, I show up to America. And at first, I was going to avoid the slavery situation. However, all the answers I was looking for was in slavery. The U.S. is so ingrained in slavery, I wanted to start there. Except, like I said, slavery didn't start in America. And at first, successful fight against slavery happened in America before America was even thought of as a country. So now I must find where slavery started and how. Basically, I already had an idea in my head of what happened. See, I thought it was the first time bombs were used, or the first time guns were used in war. However, after studying this history, I found that once your city has fallen and you're in a zombie crowd looking for any food or water or relief of any kind, well, if you wanted to take over a people, well, all you need is a barrel of apples. And knowing this blew my mind. See, you can enslave an entire world if you have what they need. I recall stories about the first president, George Washington, and how he cut the apple tree down, the cherry tree down, excuse me. Then I started looking at revolts, revolutions. These are times when people are in such great social pain that they take to the streets in retaliation. So I started looking up these times, not wars, but revolts. The people acting against the government, even in modern day times, in mob situations, things have gone way too far. In events like Attica and the Tiananmen Square, governments have killed hundreds, if not thousands, in protest. So how many times has this happened? We have no real record of all these events like this. However, we do know how far back it goes. Before written history, bruteness and savagery ruled the land. The Bible has many tales of people being slaughtered by the thousands. What we have no record of is the people that have failed to get freedom. So now I look at these people that stand out in history. They fought and died in terrible ways. Those that followed them suffered, even greater than these people. What could that have given them that was so precious that even believers get murdered? Freedom. What would you give your life for? What would you die for? Or who? After searching how America enslaved the world, I actually found where it started. Everywhere. Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. In fact, all of this, everything that we know and believe is this: freedom. Real estate is the practice of owning property and not becoming it yourself. In the world before America, you can lose everything to your debts, up to your life, your wife, and your children. So how does this change? How does man give up his way for the way of love and fairness? You say freedom and believe that It has always been this way. But what made kings give up their power for the greater good? See, I don't know what led these men, or how they did what they did. But they did it. And they will tell you that it was the Lord. Still, what is the deciding factor? Astragarus. This is the man that single-handedly started the conflict with the Persian Empire in Greece. The Battle of the 300 was fought for the retaliation of the Ionian revolt. The truth of the matter is that Astragoras was given command of Persian and Greek forces. See, thousands of men from opposite worlds, which were led by this man Astragoras, working together to campaign. We know this campaign is a mission to fight. It wasn't a mission to fight. However, in the days of this army, this campaign was to go to an uninhabited island, to forge a new plane, to start a new city, to make roads, to make docks, farmlands, homes, to build the foundation of a new world. See, our world is full of war and fighting, but I never thought I'd find such a thing. Two armies from the opposite sides of the world, they're working together to make a new home as one people. This is before the war. This is why the war occurred. See, we never heard of these times because of Astragoras. See, he failed his mission to create a new city. The problem doesn't just lay with money, okay? Now imagine this. Now the problem doesn't just lie with money. Astragoras. Remember this. Imagine the people who got paid for the expedition. The men, the food, the vessels. If you fail, you have, see, all these men around you quite upset. You see, these men are soldiers when they get here, right? When we get here, but when we go there. However, after they get there, they're going to divide up the land. See, they're going to make a proper infrastructure. They're going to build a small town. They'll be owners of the land, of the best real estate in the new world. These men will be kings. See, with hectares of land and armies of kings ready to support them in their time of need. You see, the entire world is connected. It's just too far away. See, Egypt, the Great Wall, the White City. See, it's all there. The problem is, it's too far from one another. The only thing to do is make places in between those places greater than the places you're in between. You gotta start fresh, right? Make a new world, bigger and better and stronger. And the phrase jumped into my head. More perfect. However, Astragoras failed for whatever reason. You know, maybe the native beasts were too strong, Maybe they're too deadly. Maybe the island, sank at high tide. Maybe he just stole the money for himself. No matter the reason, I strongly believe that his head would be on the table for the debacle. So he feared that he would lose all of his title, his command, and his power. So he went home to Ion and convinced a lot of his fellow Ionians to take over the city, fortify it, and fight the Persians because they were coming to get his butt. But this could have just been men mad at the lost opportunity of a great life, He could have lied to them. Hey, we didn't get enough money, or they didn't support us the right way. And now they're pissed off that they didn't get to become the king that they were about to become. So who knows when they will get another chance like this? Oh well, let's go back to work, right? Later on, the son of the Persian king, which he had many, led an army to exact revenge upon this folly. Now, this is the battle of the 300. He went across the known world to get here. They're saying, oh, we can't conquer new land. So it's like he came in support. So what happened is he led an army to exact revenge. And this is the battle of the 300. And this is why the whole army of Greece did not come to the fight. And this is why I believe Leonardo's had such a hard time getting his men to go. They were trying to, don't go there. Don't mess with them. This is about that man and Ion over there. They're tripping. That's what he's coming to do. So, but they did go to Greece too, and sack Greece too. But this is the thing. So they supported Astragalus and revolted against Persia. Okay, the whole city of Ion, right, no longer exists, but Greece still does. So what actually happened? Even though they fought, I don't think they wanted to destroy Greece. I believe they were just looking for answers with 100,000 men, bloodthirsty. Our history is one war after the other, one conflict after the other, one crazy nigga after the other. So how in the hell did we make it here at all? What I should say is how in the heavens, in our history, there is a constant transformation. We are shown true beauty, and we think, I'm beautiful. We're giving something amazing, and now you think, I'm amazing. We're shown God, and now you think, I'm God. It's like I see a little butterfly, and now I'm a little butterfly. It's amazing, right? It's amazingly true and beautiful. Now, what has seriously kept us from destroying each other? I thought for a second that God was sending angels and spirits to help aid us and guide us. But it's more like someone is taking the matches out of our hands, the fuse out of the dynamite, they're drying up the gasoline, they took the bad guys to jail, they compensated the victims, we're in a hospital bed and talking to a couple pudding. Okay? In the grave spiritually. And the body is struggling on a strong sedative with a saline drip. Okay? To say we're being helped, it just didn't have the right, context. Our world is full of terrible acts of violence. It took me this whole year to realize how so many could be killed for such simple causes. For sex, for race, for age, for religion, for creed. Why kill all these people when the presence of God is so prevalent? I thought for the infinite nature of God and the consistent nature of man, and came up with always. So my thought is that God is always here, and the nature of man is whatever it's focused on. Today is a hard day to learn what it took for us to have a heart of peace, love, understanding, forgiveness, and joy. So we would treat people like Jesus treated people, and not how Jesus was treated himself. Capital punishment. Now, we often take for granted the system we hold dear. Now, sharing in the weight. We often take for granted the system we hold dear. Sharing the weight of every task has great rewards for some and distress for others. Today, our system of imprisonment is called inhumane by some. However, the prison system throughout history puts us out to pasture. I mean, it's not the punishment that was so bad. What's really wrong with the world is man. Man is made a criminal of himself. Sometimes we're outlawing things that he needs to live, to the point which, his sex gets outlawed. Where Jesus said, touch and agree and I will be there in the midst of you. Now man says, look, no inappropriate touching. Man creates laws that are detrimental to the land and the safety of the people. But because of their lack of understanding, we curse our children to hold fear instead of one another. Because of capital punishment, we have been indoctrinating fear and hatred into our societies. Every thought of misuse of this power will make good men anxious and bad men evil. However, what do you do with all the bad men? Throughout the years, we have changed what we do with bad men. In the time of Jesus, capital punishment was given out to adulterers and thievery. Today, capital punishment is held off for years, even if you're found guilty. We have come from murdering men and their families for debt to housing and feeding murderers for years. How do we go from pillagers to saviors? The cup